All right, Rastafari greetings, ladies and gentlemen, ones and ones. It's a pleasure to see everybody here today. Fantastic. My name is Robbie Shilliam and I'm a lecturer in international relations at Queen Mary. And in my capacity as a host, I'd just like to warmly welcome everybody to this event, Rastafari 2.0. It's especially gratifying to see people from outside the university present here in the university. In these times, it's always good for those of us who work in the university to see that actually our universities are making an effort to reach out and be part of the communities which they are supposed to be serving. So it's wonderful to see people. And it's also wonderful to see our students here and colleagues. And I'm especially grateful for our esteemed speakers who've given up their evening to come here and reason on the present and the future of Rastafari. Including, we have two eminent speakers, one in Jamaica, Barbara, and one in Barbados, Bongo Spear. And I'll introduce everybody in 2 seconds. This event, whilst it's hosted by the School of Politics and International Relations, it's organised and convened by the Rastafari Council of Britain. The purpose is to inform the curious and the interested, and also to engender a dialogue amongst members of the Rastafari faith with regards to where Rasta is at the moment and where it's going in the 21st century. The format of the evening is that we're going to have each speaker start off and give some word sound on how they cite the situation. And that will be 5 to 10 minutes each. And apologies for doing the time thing, but it's just so that everyone has a voice, and we can also hear from the audience afterwards. Because afterwards we'll have a question and answer session, and everybody should feel free to ask questions or make comments or whatever. So let me just introduce briefly our speakers. First of all is Honourable Binghi Congo Nyah, the Rastafari Ombudsman from the Rastafari Council of Great Britain. In Barbados we have Honourable Bongo Spear of the Royal Medal of the Lion, and that's an award which is awarded by Prince Saleh Selassie for loyalty and faithful service. We also have Honourable Barbara Makeda Hannah Blake, and she received the Adowa Centenary Medal in 1998 from the Ethiopia Crown Council. We also have Honourable Dr Desta Meghoo, who is Desta one? Okay, well we're trying to get Desta one. And Desta is the coordinator of a groundbreaking exhibition which is due to premiere in 2014 in Addis Ababa called Rastafari, the Majesty and the Movement. We have Honourable Ras Shango Baku from the Hon Binghi National Council and editor of Thunder magazine. We have Hon Jah Meeks and Hon Prophet Newton from the EAIBC. And we have Hon Tony Tafari, who's the chief organiser of the Rastafari Council of Britain. So each one is going to give some word sound for 5 or 10 minutes. But first of all, I'm going to ask Binghi Congo Nyah to kick off the proceedings with a prayer.
Aye, give thanks unto Mr. Most High, Selassie, Rastafari. The more ambassadors them and get Yehuda. Say you may exactly and you go to get Ethiopia. Kadamawi Isle Selassie the first, the take over ambassador. How good and pleasant it is for I and I to dwell up in Inity. It's like the precious ointment of I and I head that run it down to I and I beard, or in the skirts of I and I garment. Precious it is like the river Nile that flow from Ethiopia, Mount Zion, Black Africa. And in this, Rastafari has commanded life itinerally. So and I give thanks to the gathering, and I give thanks to the Most High Rastafari. And I give thanks to each and every one in here. Because all I and I is oneness. If the foundation upon creation is truth, and we can have many reasonings, but if the foundation is not truth, that all I and I is connected, interrelated and interdependent, then we'll be reasoning fruitlessly. So and I give thanks and praise for the gathering. Inity is the pursuit of I and I Rastafari in this time. Inity is the interest of Rastafari. So we give thanks for life, and may this be blessed and sanctified, and let all these paperwork and all this building and this environment serve for the purpose and benefit of others. Padamawi I, Selassie, Holy Emmanuel I, Selassie.
So, we're just trying to get Desta online. But in the meantime, we'll go with Bongo Spear first. Honourable Bongo, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you quite well.
Yes, I.
Not to you, but I can hear it.
Okay, can you kick us off with some word sound? Your assessment of Rastafari in the 20th century and the future of Rastafari in the 21st century.
Well, greetings to each and every one. I had a little bit on the UN, but in terms of where we are and where we come from, I think one has to recognize first that the Rastafari movement is comparatively young by historical standards, just over 70 years, 82 years or so. We have come a long way from being pursued and persecuted, reached hallways such as the United Nations, the AU, and such like. For my part, I concern myself more with the political aspects of our community, particularly things that relate to our human rights, our recognition as a people, self-determination, all of these things coming from previous proposals of the Rastafari community. And this is where I find great strength. The community is moving on, obviously. It's organizing itself. It has to continue to organize itself and to find a balance, essentially, between our ancient culture and the modern reality of 21st century living. And this is where institutions such as the United Nations would come into place, because many of the issues confronting our community has been in relation to the states in all of these different countries, treatment, neglect, discrimination, persecution, things of that nature. So this is where we're going, to a full recognition of self-determination in due course. And I believe this is the purpose of our getting together, to see how we can brainstorm and put our ideas and programs together to see how best we can serve our international culture and the population as a whole. I don't know if you want me to go into the United Nations in any specific details.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, please, Bongo.
Okay. But you know, like from 1960, when the university first carried out their research program, some of the main observations coming from the Rastafari community were self-determination and religious cultural freedom. You would have later on, like 1963, you would have from the Mystic Revelations, Sam Clayton making an appearance at the UN. This was at a very primary time in terms of the Rastafari activism politically. In 1991, again, we would have at the University of the West Indies, the preparatory reasoning, which called for the establishment or the pursuance of observer status within the United Nations, the OAU, the Organization of American States, CARICOM, and such like, with the view to furthering issues of repatriation and development assistance. Repatriation, as you know, as the know, has always been a topical issue amongst the Rastafari community. And similarly, in 1995, a few years later, we will have the Ethiopian African Black International Congress, Church of Salvation, popularly known as the Ogo Shanti. They also would send various pieces of communication to the UN, in particular the International Court of Justice, with respect to the primary issue of repatriation and reparations. All of that is occurring in Jamaica. That is the precedent. In Barbados, of course, the United Nations in 1994 would have hosted a conference on sustainable development of small island states, also called SIDS. And the Rastafarians would have been present at that conference, including a delegation from Jamaica and St. Lucia, along with Barbadians, of course, and Rastafarians from other countries. And we would put forward these same historical views, guided obviously by the Jamaican delegation, to the United Nations Conference in Barbados. And from there, we would make application to the Economic and Social Council of the UN, one of 6 arms that comprises the UN, with view to having an official state of that organization to pursue the historical goals, aims, and things of that nature confronting the Rastafari community. Over the years, many persons, distinguished persons, intellectuals, legal personnel, and so on would have become involved in the process. Persons such as the British jurist Lord Gifford, who would go on to cite at least 7 considerations in respect of claims for repatriation and reparations in context of international law, of course, and jurisprudence. He had identified the enslavement of Africans as being the most criminal enterprise in humanity's history, and that international law recognizes that those who commit crimes against humanity must make reparations. He identified there were no legal barriers preventing those who suffer from the consequences, in which case it would be the diaspora, who suffer the consequences of this particular crime for seeking redress and things of that nature. That is at a legal standpoint. So it is very important to see that the Rastafari community coming from...
Hello, welcome to Skype call testing service. After the...
You're hearing me?
Apologies, Bongo. Yeah, no, we're hearing you. We're hearing you.
Yeah, sorry, there was an interference. Yeah, as I was saying, he identified various legal bases on which the Rastafari could pursue at an international level the fundamental issues confronting the community, which of course require the support of a state at the level of the international court. We will go on to make the representation at the ECOSOC with review to having the status. We have been interviewed by the 18 governments which comprises ECOSOC. It would have been a challenge, but well worth the effort, insofar as at the end of the meeting, the August meeting, 1996, we have been accredited to the United Nations. This creates the opportunity, in my view, for Rastafarian activists with a particular interest in economic and social matters, economic, social, and political matters, to get involved. I would say that the whole mode and method of pursuing consultative status, what was significant or a departure from the previous efforts and so on made in Jamaica would be legitimacy in terms of a legal framework, legal construct. And that is one of the primary issues of affecting our community. Legitimacy, having appropriate legal frameworks established to pursue the various issues and development agendas of our community on a global scale. Consultative status at the UN, obviously it would have been met with acclaim, and on the converse too, there would be people who would express some reservation and things of that nature. Given we are coming from a very traditional standpoint, and given that the whole discrimination that has affected the development of our community, these ingrained xenophobias and prejudices and things of that nature. Nonetheless, of worth mentioning would be the contributions the opinions expressed by the late Professor Barrett Evans, one of the foremost writers, definitive writers on the history and the works of Rastafarian, who called the move an extremely significant break with tradition and indicated that any incorporation of the Rastafari movement at the level of the UN is tantamount to bestowing legitimacy. So this is the fundamental issue of working with the United Nations, in concert with the United Nations, to pursue the goal of our full legitimacy, which is the full recognition of our rights, to practice our culture, to develop ourselves as a people, and things of that nature. So that is where we are going, and that has been the overall aim of our input at the United Nations, to highlight issues brought to that chamber by other persons, and to see how, and ourselves of course, and to see how these issues can be tackled. A key important issue is human rights education, as most of the issues affecting our community can be located within a human rights perspective, whether economic, social, political, or otherwise. This is critical to for us to understand, as most often people tend to acclaim the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is basically a moral principle established by the states. We have to recognize that because it is a moral declaration, it is not legally binding. That's the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. What is legally binding is the International Bill of Rights and the covenants that are accompanying it. It is within these covenants that Rastafarians and people in general, the covenants would be the International Covenant of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, ICESR, and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and of course the optional protocols which allow for individuals, myself, yourselves, all the audience, to make complaints to the United Nations. Of course, a process is involved there. So these are the covenants that we have to locate our essential issues, existential issues in, with review to investigations at any local, at any level. And this is what working with the UN essentially does. It gives us that access to improve knowledge, for one, and to develop working relationships with the powers that be, who can impact and affect the future of our culture. Mr. Chairman, I'm very much obliged.
Yes, good thanks for that word. So whilst we're working on the Skype connection, I'd like to turn to Ras Shango Baku. Would you bless us with some words?
Give thanks and praise. Let the words of thy mouth and the meditation of thy heart be one and the same and acceptable in thy sight, O Most High Jah, Rastafari, Haile I Selassie I. Give thanks to be invited to this forum, a very necessary forum where we discuss, I was told, Inity, the question of Inity. Perhaps the focus has shifted slightly to projections as to where the movement is going or what our thoughts are on the future of the movement. But having prepared some thoughts on the issue of unity, for those who are not within the Rastafari lingo, as we say, Inity, I think it would be best if I pursue, and perhaps some of the thoughts here would reflect on where I think, or where those that I work with, and that is Rastafari internationally, have put their might and their strength towards the unity of the movement worldwide, which will of course have resonance to what our honourable brother Bongo Spear has added to this debate from his legalistic perspective and the works that he has carried out in that area. As individuals, I come to Rastafari in many different ways, and from many diverse perspectives. Some influenced by the music of Rastafari, others by the teaching of the elders, others through associations with the houses and mansions. As is generally accepted, Rastafari is a divine inspiration, or as we say, an inborn concept, a calling from within to become sons and daughters of the Almighty Father who lives and dwells, as we say, in the hearts of all flesh. Each and every one of I have a testimony of the goodness of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie, and the blessed rewards of this mystical, or as we say, istical trod. And truly He has made I new beings, and I are born of His will and His testament. Therefore I have a crucial role in life to represent or to represent the word and the works of His Imperial Majesty in this time, to bring forward His healing grace unto the nations, so that the knowledge of Him, H-I-M, His Imperial Majesty, should cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. Hence I are inevitably linked to each other through the fatherhood of the Most High and the brotherhood and the sisterhood of life. I are an embodiment of the Holy Grail that the ages have searched and longed for, that peace and harmony that is beyond utterance, that divinity that is our true nature or divine destiny, and the salvation of earth itself. Now it is said that in my Father's house there are many mansions, and this is as it should be. As in the body there are many limbs and parts, each with its own specific function, to make up the fullness of life, so too within the body of Rastafari, individually and collectively, we all have specific roles to play in the revelation of the times. For those who do not know the houses and mansions of Rastafari, I suggest you look up Google. There has been a tendency for each house to glorify its works and to claim precedence over the work of others. Hon Binghi proclaims its status as the first house of Rastafari, an elemental recreation of the ancient order of praising the Most High. The Ethiopian World Federation, otherwise known as the EWF, prides itself on its adherence to the written constitution of His Imperial Majesty. The 12 tribes uphold the prophecy of Ezekiel 37, that the scattered tribes will return and be one nation in the land which they will ultimately inherit. The Bobo Shanti, my brothers who are known popularly by that name, often portray themselves as an exclusive body in their righteous search for return to their spiritual homeland as priests and prophets. The Orthodox Rastas hold that His Majesty was a member of this church and that we all should do likewise. And then you have the IEWF who look for the restoration of the imperial throne of Ethiopia. So there are several houses and several mansions that make up the fullness of the houses of Rastafari. Then there are the unaffiliated Rastas, and that is a numerous house. And they maintain their individual and personalized beliefs outside of any particular mansion. There are also ones whose loyalty is across several mansions, and the Global Rastafari Council, Rastafari Council of Great Britain, conveners of this gathering, have also had their credibility called into question. And several ones have had messages from Jamaica asking me, well, who are these people, the Global Council of Rastafari? By what right have they acquired these titles? Over the years, several attempts have been made to unite the houses and mansions of Rastafari in a single organization. Most of these attempts have been temporary, largely unsuccessful, often ending in failure. The One House Binghi celebration, maintained by the National Hon Binghi Council and the EWF, Ethiopian World Federation in the UK, is one of the few examples of long-standing continuity and cooperation between mansions working in harmony. Over the past 20 years, Shashamani in Ethiopia has also had some success in unifying around causes and initiatives that impact across mansions. Again, the Nyabingi National Council has been directly involved in strengthening the ties that bind us together in that blessed land. And there I go again, talking about the affiliation that I am affiliated to. Okay. Yet I and I are united under the headship of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile I Selassie. The twin pillars of our common liberty are based on the divinity of the Emperor and the yearning for repatriation. These two things. And these overarching ideals should suffice in themselves to bring about the desired unity. But often they have not. Previous attempts have sometimes been mired in pettiness and egotism by the self-appointed leaders of houses and their lack of vision as to the holistic and global nature of this movement. In the meantime, Rastafari as a socio-spiritual force for change has exceeded all expectations, reaching out to adherents and sympathizers in every nook and cranny of the earth. Today there is no nation on earth without its quota of Rastafari. The movement has spread even more surreptitiously and insidiously than Christianity, whose early days were also nurtured in the fires of affliction, persecution, and disrepute. The question is, have we followed that pattern of schisms and splits, such as the Christian churches have become, to become denominational, factional in these latter times? His Imperial Majesty states, in the mystic tradition of the different religions, we have a remarkable unity of spirit. Whatever religion they profess, they are spiritual kinsmen. While the different religions in their historical form bind us to limited groups and militate against the development of loyalty to the world community, the mystics have already stood for the fellowship of humanity. I and I would do well to heed these words and to observe the injunction that is implicit within them. The fact is that Rastafari is not simply a new sect or religion on the face of the earth. Much more than this, and I'm not sure my brethren and sisters will agree with me, it is the amalgamation of religious practice woven into everyday life or liberty. It is the surmounting of religious difference in the quest for a true world order based on the principle of overstanding, equality, and justice in the modern world. As such, it derives from the fundamental value systems of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and all major world religions that have come before it. It proposes an end to the endless search for peace and harmony by identifying the God in man at a time when we have the capacity, experience, means, and absolute need to arrive at a global consensus of faith and knowledge. If this is not so, then we are engaged in a pointless exercise. We are adding another chaotic note to the profusion of conflicting voices that have dominated the planet in preceding millennia. Again, in the words of His Imperial Majesty, this then is the ultimate challenge. Where are we to look for survival, for answers to the questions which have never before been posed? We must look first to Almighty God, who has raised man above the animals and endowed him with intelligence and reason. We must put our faith in Him, that He will not desert us or permit us to destroy humanity, which He has created in His image. And we must look into ourselves, into the depths of our own souls. We must become something we have never been before, and for which our education and experience have ill prepared us. We must become bigger than we have been, more courageous, greater in spirit, larger in outlook. We must become members of a new race, overcoming petty prejudice, owing our ultimate allegiance not to nations, but to our fellow men and women in the human community. End of quote. The message is abundantly clear. Unity within Rastafari is not merely desirable. It is absolutely necessary and incumbent upon I and I to become something new, so as not to repeat the mistakes of the past and the pitfalls of separatist thinking and divisive action. The encircling rainbow throne of righteousness is evident in the skies of Ethiopia. I've seen it myself. It is a rain circle, not a rainbow, complete circle, complete with all the colors and the harmonious elements of nature, a symbol and a sign of eternal peace between man and his universal environment. This is truly Mount Zion, the apex of our aspirations, where the ideal and the reality become indivisible. We have seen and acknowledged it with our own eyes. Now we only need to live up to it. In the olden days, there were 42 negative assertions that were made to cleanse ourselves of sin and wrong against our neighbors, etc., in the ancient Kemet, in the ancient Egypt. Those who know of these, I have not done this, I have not taken my brother's wife, I have not stolen anything. 42 negative assertions. Then we had 10 commandments, which boiled down these 42 into what we know as the 10 commandments. By the time of Christ, there were only 2 commandments. In the reign of His Imperial Majesty, the dictum was simplified and boiled down and perfected and became one love, one perfect love. Ultimately, love is the law in its singular, specific, simple, and spectacular glory. All else is illusion. Give thanks and praise. Rastafari.
Give thanks for them, Sam. Thanks. Empress Barbara, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Barbara, would you want to give your contribution now?
That's a pleasure. That would be my pleasure. Peace, love, and blessings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari, nativity of His Imperial Majesty and Highly High Selassie. Perfect love to all the speakers on this panel, and especially to the organizers of the Rastafari Global Council. So we're a pleasure to be fully participating in this conversation. You really had asked me to sort of give a little history and then, make comments. But what I really would say here is that Rastafari began in Jamaica, and I'm a Jamaican, and Jamaica this year is celebrating the 50th anniversary of its independence. And it's very interesting to reflect on Rastafari through that prism, because in the 50 years, the conclusions that all the pundits have arrived at is that the one major thing that Jamaica can say as a positive out of the 50 years has been the emergence and influence, the positive influences of the Rastafari movement, religion, lifestyle, whatever one may wish to call it. And that's really so. There have been very few positives we can look at as a result of 50 years of independence. And Rastafari definitely is that. Rastafari as a global philosophy that literally has taken the world by storm. And why? Because it's a global philosophy of love. Love that before Rastafari, love was like something in the movies or something you shared, your partner or your children. But love as a spiritual force, love as the origin of humanity, love as God and godliness, Rastafari was a philosophy that has taught that message now in this 20th and 21st century. Yes, it was the message of Jesus Christus of Nazareth, whom we worship, but that was 2,000 years ago, and his beautiful has become so diluted that Judge has sent a new message, His Imperial Majesty, to bring that message, a new message of love. And I, his messenger, is Rastafari. I was born in Jamaica. My profession is a journalist. And as such, I went to England and spent the decade of the 60s there. I suffered greatly under racism. But the racism, it came at a time when a lot of important things were happening, a lot of important philosophical movements were taking place in the world, most important of which was the Black is Beautiful movement, the Black Power movement, Angela Davis, George Jackson, the movement that was also encapsulated. You had in music the music of the 60s in England and America, the music of the Beatles on the one hand, and Marvin Gaye, and then we have the Make Love Not War movement of the hippies, the anti-Vietnam movement. I benefited from these, and out of that racism, I home to find my black self. Inspired by the movie The Harder They Come, which I was given the job of being PR of, which introduced me to Rastafari, and I had to come back and be that and live that. You know, it said Rastafari is not something you become, it's in you from birth, and I could really see that. So I came out the time when Rastafari was moving from its first phase, the elder sages in the hills, the brutality and discrimination, being to cut to back a wall, to work, moving into the second phase, which was the globalization to music of Mali and the Wailers, Burning Spear, Black Uhuru, Jacob Miller, all Dennis Griffiths, all the music voices that took that pure message of love, the African message of love to the world. As a journalist, I've used my skills to carry forward using the keyboard, the microphone, the camera, and my voice as best I can to carry the message. In the 70s, I supported a lot of movement with my pen, made myself very unpopular by doing things like Garvey, endorsing Garvey's philosophy, defending the right for the sacramental use of the herb, becoming part of the legalized ganja movement or decriminalized marijuana movements. I wrote a book on Rastafari because I felt it was time that someone within the movement should write about what the faith meant to I. And my book now is in its 7th edition with additions to the text with each one, because I too have grown and learned more about Rastafari. And every day more and more history is revealed. If I'm a member of all mansions, but I'm mostly a baptized member of the Ethiopian Orthodox Christ Church. In fact, I'm baptized by the Makeda, so most within that, I see that as a right place for I to be, because it's the place where His Majesty sat on his throne as defender of the author, the old name in word and Jerusalem, and still here today carrying the lineage through which His Imperial Majesty has gone to the earth. And so it's a priestly work we do here, carry that message of peace and love. And it's very hard to do so when, especially, learning the true history of that race. I mean, I was just learning at the start I trod into Rastafari in the 70s. And it can tend to make you angry, of course, because it's been a history of brutality and injustice, humanity for 300 years. And the great thing is that the message of peace and love conquers that, makes you even stronger, and gives you a firmer foundation on which to stand and purpose of all things on earth. I'm very much pleased to have brought Rastafari Global Council. I spend sort of 324 hours a day on the internet in various ways as a educator, and there Rastafari Global Council. And this is, I say, the third phase of Rastafari. We're into the third generation. I've been of the second generation taught by the elders, and I have brought my child into Rastafari at 27 years of age. He's the best age of the youngest now of the Rastafari Global Council, the third generation of Rastafari. And their message, new and modern, their message is that it's time for us to really encapsulate the true fullness of what is Rastafari and use it as a platform to build in the 21st century. We say Rastafari is a lifestyle. Therefore, that lifestyle, we can prove that it's a worthy lifestyle to embrace and to live, and all aspects of the lifestyle. And I particularly want to mention the medical aspect of the lifestyle, by which Anne and I kept ourselves and full of life. And I must go to the medical uses of our sacrament that the rest of the world is using. It's medicine, and I need to step and claim our rights to use it just the same way, not just personally, but as medicine for the healing of the nations. Reparations. I was privileged to be invited to be a member of at the United Nations Against Racism in South Africa in 2001. And when I told the Jamaican delegation that I was invited as the head of the Rastafari Information Center, they invited me to join the Jamaican delegation. And that was a double privilege, because when reparations became an issue in the general plenary, it was hived off to a separate subcommittee. I was mandated to join Ambassador Dudley Thompson on that subcommittee, and I was able there to add to the list of reparations, the final number 9 on the list, facilitating the welcome return and resettlement of descendants of Africa in the diaspora who so desire. That still is an agenda, but I came back and I created the Jamaica Reparations movement to really use what I learned at the WCAR, bring that platform forward in Jamaica, created a manifesto. But I discovered there all the problems of reparations, problems not just their side, on our side as well. I understand that a new reparations committee has been set up, and we look forward to its work using the recommendations put forward by the Jamaica Reparations movement. Whereas in the meantime, in Jamaica, Jamaican Rastafari, Jamaica, the home of Rastafari, must demand reparations for the Coral Gardens massacre. And those reparations are much easier to be given because we only need to ask the Jamaican government for reparations. So I would say that once again, the message of peace and love, remember that is our core message, and never deviate from it. Always suppressing the anger and the war that should naturally rise as reactions to our history. But our history is even more glorious than the blip of 300 years. Our history is the thousands of years of the glorious history of Africa, the birthplace of humanity, the center of the world. We are the children of that Ethiopian heritage and history from Egypt to now. So I thank you for this opportunity to have addressed you. Thank you in the peace of Rastafari and Briley. I said, Lasia.
Thanks, Barbara. And next I'd like to turn to Jah Meeks and Prophet Newton. My lords, would you like to take the stage?
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy One of creation. Jah is the beginning, now and ever shall be. Jah will. Jah, Rastafari, Emmanuel, Jah, Rastafari, Jah Marcus, Jah, Rastafari. Right. Do give thanks for coming here. Do give thanks for being present here and being able to address. As my brother was quite sure mentioned, this really was necessity of unity. I'm a practical thinking person, and when you speak about unity, there are a lot of things that go into it. You know, we've been uttering unity for quite some time now, but the actual practicality of attaining that unity is a different matter. Because in order to have unity, you must have synchronization. You must have singularity of aims, objectives, thoughts, and projections. And this singularity must be hinged upon something that we all hold as the ultimate. Right? So if we all adhere to this single thing, then unity is automatic. It comes like that. But however, we are suffering from a case of semantics right now. Africa is divided by semantics. And there's a lot of semantics among us. Sectarianism is simply individuals reading their own interpretation into a particular idea, ideology, or concept. In this case, we have the various versions. But these various houses are nothing but semantics. It's one Rastafari, one head, one sovereign head. The Black Crown head. The people who we look upon as our international heroes or our national heroes were people like Marcus Messiah Garvey. And if we look at Marcus Messiah Garvey and his works and what his objectives were and what he was about, right, anybody who's mentioning or trying to identify with Marcus Messiah Garvey must identify with the active operation that Marcus Messiah Garvey manifests, which is international freedom, redemption, repatriation, universally, for all black Africans dispersed in the Western diaspora and in Africa. Now, concerning unity. Unity is necessary. Very necessary. And if we are to attain unity, we have to break down these walls that separate us based on semantics. You know, it's simply, they have to go. Also, we hold some views that we have been saturated with due to the fact that we have been educated with Eurocentric educational concepts, which are not conducive to who we are, which we need to get rid of. Eurocentric education is good for Europeans, thank you, but it's not for us. It's not for us. It's not conducive to who we are. What Eurocentric education does, it turns you into a conduit where you channel your natural resources back to your colonial master. And this is not the direction that we want to head in. We need to formulate institutions to educate ourselves based on our own history, based on our own culture, based on our own traditions. Unless we do this, we are spinning around in circles. We constantly try to get some approval or some sort of approval from our colonial master or some sort of. We don't need approval. We are a sovereign nation and dispersed, right? The right of our rights has already been manifest. We have a legitimate sovereign head that stood on a world scale and established his legitimacy. That is our legitimacy. Our legitimacy is under that umbrella, the umbrella of black sovereign, the sovereign head, right? And it's to that head that we must adhere, because there are no other heads. There's only one head. Now, I would like to point out another thing is that if you look in your scripture in the old dispensation covenant, during the time of the coming of the house of Israel, you would see that the Creator in his wisdom had found it necessary to implement 3 institutions into that kingdom. And these 3 institutions were the priest, the Prophet, and the King. Now remember, it's the Creator and His wisdom that has implemented these institutions. Therefore, it's very specific purpose. Because they cater for your innate needs, which is your spiritual, your social, and your governmental. Okay? Now these needs are for everybody have these innate needs. However, there's one correct version of this. What has happened to us is that we have been captivated, brought into a watered-down version of this. And we have been asked to adhere to this version, which is not conducive to who we are. And out of that comes a lot of confusion. Because from the time that you lost yourself, you have to try to find it back. And that's where the confusion comes in. Because you don't always find the path back to yourself. Right? The path to ourselves is repatriation now and now. Black international repatriation. Africa for black Africans at home and those abroad. That is our aims. Those are our objectives. We are a sovereign nation in exile, being persecuted, being suppressed, being oppressed, being hammered down at every turn and every corner, right? And it's starting to act on us as a people. We are starting to suffer from a complex. We're starting to go through traumatic symptoms. You see what I'm saying? And you're seeing it every day. When you meet people on the street, you're seeing it in them. Why? Because this is not a natural human state for anybody to be in. Freedom is allotted to everyone. No one has to bargain for freedom. Freedom is your divine allotted right. Right? No one has to approve this freedom for you. There's no other nation that is given to govern you as a nation. God has given to all nations a plot and a path. He had divided it by lot and given to each nation their lot. No nation has the right to govern and dictate the direction that another nation should go. And this is what we are talking about when we talk. Rastafari came out of this struggle against slavery and oppression. Remember, that's where we came out from. This is the continuation of the struggle, right? When His Imperial Majesty sat upon the throne and established the legitimacy of the throne of King David, it also established the fact that the Black House of Israel was scattered in the Western diaspora, which these people went to great lengths to try to hide and keep away from you. And one of the ways that they did that is in the way that they handled you during slavery, in that they took away your language, your culture, your history, and every single thing that was pertaining to you and to connect you with your past was taken away from you. This is the continuation of that struggle, my friend. Now, if you look at indentureship and indentured thing, which was perpetuated at the very same time that slavery was perpetuated, the indentured workers that had not been subject to such a treatment. Why was it necessary to take away your language and culture? They could have gotten you to work without doing all of that, because it worked with the indentured laborers. Then why was it necessary? These are some of the fundamental questions. These are some of the questions that we need to ask, because these are some of the reasons. Because the people who perpetuated this thing, they knew exactly what they were doing, and up to now they're still doing it, and they know exactly what they're doing it. So can I come and pretend that these people are my friends? They are not my friends. They have held us captives for centuries and centuries. We want to be free now. We want to be free now. We are a sovereign nation, and we don't have to ask for approval for that freedom. We need that repatriation of it. It was our demanding right. We were taken and brought here forcefully. We didn't come here by chance. Also, I would like to point out that African people who are coming from Africa via migration cannot identify with the people who have spent 400 and 500 years in this diaspora, being constantly subject to the inhumane treatment. And even when they claim that we are equal, or they give us some equality, it is only a very small percentage of us who are asked to sell themselves in order to attain that equality. What equality is that, if that is equality? Equality is when you as a nation are able to stand as a man and face any other nation in their face and look them in their face with pride and on equal terms in the brotherhood of humanity. Freedom is not when your choices are being formulated for you by someone else. Freedom is when you formulate your choices for yourself. Thank you. This is what we are about. And we will not relent in our pursuit of utter, total freedom. This is what we are about. So if anybody think that Rastafari is something different to that, I would like to burst your bubble today, because Rastafari is about repatriation and international freedom. Give thanks. Glory be.
Good thanks for that, was and just had appeared Honourable Dr Shawn Sobers, Senior Lecturer in Photography and Media at the University of West of England, and the Secretary of the Friends of Haile Selassie and Fairfield House. Shawn, it's an honour to have you here, and could you give some words for the audience?
Okay, give thanks. Apologies for being late. I just want to, in the name of His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, give thanks. It is an honour and a blessing to be here, and I'm glad that we're able to trot safe down from Bristol. And we're doing fine until we hit London. You know, it's kind of difficult, obviously, coming in without hearing the rest of the utterance. So I'll kind of do my best to kind of to make a short utterance, and then see how it kind of flows with the rest of the speakers. Obviously, I don't know what's been said already. Just to give a bit of context to me, really. As the brother said, I'm a lecturer teaching film and photography at the University of West of England, and I was asked to talk about the film that I made, Footsteps of the Emperor, which looked at the history of His Majesty in Bath, and also the work with Fairfield House. Before I kind of run into that, I want to kind of, you know, talk a little bit about how I got to that place to be able to make that film and to be involved with Fairfield House, because my embracement of Rastafari is, you know, is total in terms of what got me to that position, really. You know, left school, 4 really bad GCSEs. This is the mid 80s, 1988, left school, and you know, searching for identity, age 16, 17, 18, and you know, you're kind of you know, growing as an individual, understanding what path you're on as well as what path other people are on. And it was at that kind of time in the late 80s where I started to embrace Rastafari. And lots of things happening at that time, you know, in terms of, you know, roots music, conscious hip-hop, you know, soul to soul, lots of different influences coming together, like different wires that form together and sort of build an energy. So that was kind of, you know, that was the beginnings of my trod, really. And, you know, embraced what I see as, you know, Rastafari is powerful. I mean, you know, this is a trod that I've been on now, obviously since birth, as we know, but also in terms of physical manifestation, you know, 22 years or so. But I still feel like an infant in this game, because it's a deep trod, it's a deep thing. And you know, in terms of, you know, being on the panel with scholars, you know, I never feel that I'm always feeling that I'm learning. You know, each one teach one is the credence that I really held on to with Rastafari. And when it comes to, you know, embracing Rastafari, that's when I started to make strong decisions in my life about which way I wanted to go, because I was working in, you know, backwater jobs, really racist environments, and I was okay, you know, I want to do something of more significance. So that's when I went back into college, art college, embraced photography, film, and then it was that journey. So it's Rastafari that took me on that journey from the very beginning, you know, day one, in terms of what I'm doing today. To cut a long story short, you know, university, etc. When I got into a position of working at a television station, you know, I grew up in Bath and always heard this fragment of a story about His Majesty that lived in Bath during the exile, but no one really told the full story because no one really knew the full story. So, you know, part of it was myth, rumour, gossip. So I wanted to really get to the root of, okay, what is this connection that His Majesty's got with Bath? So I went to the producer at ITV and said, look, I've got this story. It's fascinating. Are you interested? And as soon as I said, no, Emperor of Ethiopia living in Bath, you know, her eyes lit up in terms of, okay, yeah, there's a film there. So I started to do the research into it. And as a filmmaker, doing research into a subject that's close to your heart, you know, I'm a filmmaker, journalist, etc., but then also Rasta. So doing research into His Majesty, you know, I could have found out anything, but there was 100% love that came from all different corners, from Rastas, from English people. Bath is a very conservative place, any of you that have been there. And obviously we're talking Bath in the 1930s, very different to even Bath today. But every single corner that I hit on when it comes to research had nothing but love for His Majesty. And, doing the research, I had to think, okay, if I hit on something that's going to contradict how I feel about His Majesty, how am I going to feel about that? So I started to get quite, nervous, as you expect. But actually, there was no need for that nerve, because every single piece of slight information I got was 100% of love of His Majesty. And, that's a powerful thing right there, really. Can I get a glass of water, so if that's possible? My mouth's starting to dry up. In terms of Fairfield House itself, thanks very much. For those that don't know, so His Majesty lived there from 1936 to 1941 during the Italian invasion of Ethiopia. Rastafari. It was from Fairfield House that he rallied for liberation of the country, lobbied the League of Nations, founded the EWF. It's a historical site, it's a historical place, it's a sacred space for Rastafari, and a historical site of importance for the world. Rastafari and non-Rastafari is an important place, but it's sacred and important for us as Rastafari people. It's a day centre. The BEMSCA, which is the Bath Ethnic Minority Senior Citizens Association, use the house, and they use it as a day centre 3 days a week. And His Majesty's wish when he left the house to the city was to use it as a day centre. He left it to the elders of the city, not as a day centre, but he left it to the elders of the city as a gift. So pretty much throughout that whole time it's been used for elders. It was used for a children's home for a small amount of time. But for the most of that time it's been used for the elders. In the mid-90s, about 1995, the council tried to sell it, or they started to put rumour out that they were going to try and sell the house because it's expensive. And brothers like Rastafari Bandeli and others in the local community started to, fight and managed to get the house saved at that particular point. It was about 2 years ago when this came full circle, and the council started to spread rumour that they were going to sell it again. So again, we kind of mobilised and to cut a long story short, we've now got a committee formed, and we're doing the works, and I can talk a little bit about that later. But it's moving forward, and the council are fully on board now in terms of saying they're not going to sell it. They've realised that it's not theirs to sell. It's a gift, and it has to be remained for the community. And there's lots of different initiatives which I'll talk a bit about later. So that's me in a kind of a nutshell, really. But yeah, so it's a humble and it's an honour to be here, and I look forward to more utterance as well.
Yes, sir.
So next, Binghi,
give thanks to life. Aye. Might and power of the Trinity. Rastafari is a man, a way of life, a mind, a style. Rastafari govern the earth, even the stoplight, red, green and gold. Ethiopia will rally around the Lion of Judah. Selassie the First, the Almighty. No apology. There's a history of Rastafari which ones and ones can definitely study. But Rastafari come forward into a time where, even from a look at His Majesty visit Jamaica, and the ancients them say, what should we do, His Majesty? They say, your works are fruitful, organized and centralized. So from that time till this time, this is I and I mission. Now I and I tried to come forward in this place to build Inity. Everywhere and I tried is Inity. Rastafari is united. When you look at if you look at the words of His Majesty, which is I and I able, you will see Rastafari mission clearly set out before I and I. It's like, if you look at the topics where His Majesty deal with, higher education, special education, general education, international relations, cultural relations, personal diplomacy, international politics, UN international, legal and constitutional, war and peace, transport, communication, health, light, power, security, domestic, agriculture, economic development, industrial development, and further on. But what I'm trying to say is Rastafari trod in His Majesty glory. Ones and ones have offices within Rastafari. So you might say, you might hear of the Hon Binghi Order, EABIC, Church of Salvation. You might hear of the EWF. You might hear of many Rastafari movements, organizations, social enterprises doing the work of Rastafari in different departments. Sometimes when you're doing a work, you have to keep focus. So, you know, it might look like, so someone might see someone doing that and someone doing that. Imagine the ants community. You know, when you see the ants working together, baby, though the black ants might be small, but in Inity, we gather all the resources I and I need. So we try to organize, centralize. I and I, you know, even when you think about I and I farm, Lions Den Farm as director for employment creation, you know, social inclusion, and also, you know, musical entertainment for ones and one, music with a message. Likewise, the works of I and I hands where I and I also bring to Rastafari is, you know, I and I is like a voice and data communications engineer, you know, which is I and I repatriation ticket. And when I and I think of repatriation, it's an accurate science. You know, it's not a song that I and I sing. It's an accurate science which I and when it's a repatriation, you know there's plane there, and then one can book a flight. But likewise, repatriation have a certain collective element within it, certain amount of skills and things what we bring forward when we trod in. We trod in here, and there's a lot of things which I and I can use wisely, especially within technology and thing. As Majesty speak of how technology has even transformed parts of the Sahara. So, and agriculture is Rastafari, you know, main works of I and I hands that we trod on to really, because with agriculture I and I will have a firm basis for anything that I and I do. I and I eat food, drink water, natural spring water. You know, Rastafari interest is water. See what I say? Food, life, food with energy. Because when I want success in life, you have to know, say, I and I have to trod with all the essential things that I and I need, which is health, strength, mental stability. It's a package, and it's a journey. It's not just one place. And Rastafari have to achieve that in this time, because I and I is joyful. Regardless of what happened through many things within Rastafari, I and I all, I and I inner peace and joy. Humbleness, spreading love, because love is the truth and love is the foundation. Love, Congo. Foundation which all was created. So we are united even by the very aspect of nature. Rastafari is not confused with that. I and I is here today working in Inity, so I'd really love to hear some of what the item I say as well. So, I mean, Barbara Anna Blake look at our Rastafari Global Council as the third generation of Rasta. But at the same time, you know, there's a time in Rastafari where one's become mature in Rastafari and embrace and soak in everything from the root. You know, Hon Binghi Order coming straight up. And we give thanks for life, and we give thanks to the nourishment of the root. There's certain aspects of Rastafari that is just foundation, can't be moved. Some I say like a listed building. You come in there, just have to, it's remaining. So let's give thanks to life and move on. More lives, last time first.
And our last speaker is Tony Tafari.
Blessed love and honourable greetings, everyone. I'm Tony Tafari, and I'm working for the Rastafari Council of Britain and the Rastafari Global Council. I guess everyone's quite shocked because I'm standing here and I don't look like the traditional Rasta man. But I'd like to thank everyone for turning out today. Some of the people that we had speaking from abroad today, we had Barbara Hannah Blake and Honourable Bongo Spear. They are basically board members of the Rastafari Global Council. So they are basically charged with governing the organisation. And we had an extra person who was meant to speak, who is based in Ethiopia, called Dr Desta Meghoo, but she was unable to speak today because there was a very bad connection. So Desta Meghoo, she is basically someone who's leading an exhibition in Ethiopia, which is being backed by the Ethiopian government, the tourist board, and Addis Ababa University. And the exhibit's going to be called Rastafari, the Movement, the Majesty and the Movement, and it's going to take place 2014 in Addis Ababa. So that was what she was going to talk about. She also has a project in Ethiopia where she works with young people within Ethiopia, pushing them through school and so forth. She's also been an advisor to the Ethiopian Crown Council and an advisor to the UN. So on our board as the Rastafari Global Council, we have some very significant individuals, people that have been stalwarts within the Rastafari community and have contributed lots of works. Bongo Spear was actually able to get the Rastafari community at the UN, so he gained consultative status for his organization, which is called Africa Hall Incorporated. And now there are 15 spaces available for us to basically go and speak at the UN. The Rastafari Global Council and the Africa Hall Incorporated are now we are a partner organization. So we're working together. And our aim today was really to bring Rastafari, the various mansions together to give a public display of unity and dispel some of the myths about the Rastafari community, where many people have said that the Rastafari community is divided. But we're standing here today to show everyone that no, Rastafari is united and we are still a force in the world. As most of you would know, Rastafari has probably been the most significant movement in Black Britain. It has been from the days of the riots and so forth. The Rastafari community have pushed forward for the Black History Month. They've been fighting for reparations, and they've been defending the African Caribbean community. Most people know that the Rasta man is very respected. Yes. Even the bad man, when him have him gone, when him see the Rasta man, he would try to hide it. If he's got his alcohol, he wants to hide it because he has so much respect for the Rasta man. So, as I said, my name is Tony Tafari, and I was invited by Hon Binghi Congo Nyah, with the blue to basically come and to work for RGC and the RBC as an organizer. So after some reasoning and a bit of participation in the Holy Sacrament, we took up the task of building a broad-based Rastafari community organization with no budget and from scratch. So I knew it would be a difficult task, but I graciously took the challenge and set to work. My previous experience gave me skills that were relevant to the task. I am a trained community organizer who gained experience working with London Citizens, a broad-based multi-faith organization that basically works across faiths on social justice projects. Whilst working with London Citizens, I took part in campaigns for a living wage in London and amnesty for migrants. I was lucky enough to travel to the US to research community organizing, and my organizing work led to me being noted in the Independent as one of 10 young, gifted and black. I'm also a philosopher with degrees in philosophy and cultural studies. Many of the other people that were on the young, gifted and black list in the Independent, they are now working in the major political parties, and they're working in some high-flying institutions, but I'm still here with the Rastafari community, grassroots and China, you know, making sure that I don't sell out. So as I said, I'm a philosopher with degrees in philosophy and cultural studies, but most importantly, I am also a Rastafari. I am a follower of His Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie I. My stepfather was a member of the 12 tribes of Israel. He was what they call a first Judah, and he was a martial artist, and he introduced me to Haile Selassie. When I was a young boy, I used to go and take part in his martial arts classes, and there was a big, massive picture of Haile Selassie there, and at the beginning and at the end of each session, we used to say our praises to Haile Selassie. So from when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I was introduced to this stuff. At the age of 18, I decided to declare myself a Rastafari, and I started to grow my natty and began visiting Rasta International, which was at St. Agnes Place. And I was in a roots band with some 12 tribe elders, where I performed under the name of Negos. So many people still know me as Negos today. I also began to play with the Burro drummers at St. Agnes Place, with elders such as Farai and Ras Charlie. And I was a man always curious, and I began to read wider books after making friends with an elder called Pepukai, who was a book distributor, and I started to work with him selling books, and he was also a Pan-Africanist. So I was then introduced to a writer called Robin Walker, and he was the author of a book called When We Ruled, and I began to study with him Black Studies courses. Basically, we went through the whole of African history and philosophy and so forth. But it was the teachings of Rastafari and the words of Haile Selassie that provided I with a solid foundation when I could have went down a different road. I am not the leader of the Rastafari Council of Britain, nor the Rastafari Global Council. I am an organizer. I work to create leaders. I identify, train and teach potential leaders working on things such as speech writing and policy issues. My role is to provide a platform through which the mansions and institutions of Rastafari have a platform from which to develop, expand and utilize their power, their ability to act on major issues in the world. Our hope is that them become the leadership of the Rastafari Council of Britain and the Rastafari Global Council. So when someone wants to speak to the leadership of the Rastafari community, we want to call upon the Nyah Binghi brethren, we want to call upon the members of the EWF, we want to call upon the members of the EABIC and Church of Salvation, we want to call upon the members of 12 tribes and various other Rastafari institutions to step forward and speak on behalf of the Rastafari community. We believe that Rastafari is our gift to the world. It is the greatest creation ever to come from the African diaspora, and it is fundamentally important to us. So our work is to make things happen and to provide a vehicle through which we can put aside our differences in pursuit of the greater good of Rastafari. So we are inviting the EWF, Nyah Binghi Council, the 12 Tribes of Israel, the EABIC, the Friends of Haile Selassie, and any other institutions that want to work in the pursuance of the objectives of Rastafari to come together in unity to work for the common good of Rastafari, regardless of any doctrinal specifics, where we work together on what fundamentally unites Rastafari, which I believe is the veneration of Haile Selassie and his teachings. We are inviting all to go back to their communities and discuss the aims and objectives of the Rastafari Council of Britain, and to come back to us and to publicly pledge commitment, to working in unity for the common good of all Rastafari, to send a message to all those that may be confused about Rastafari, a message to those on the periphery of the mansions that Rastafari is a unified body with a special and important message for the world. I'm just going to quickly tell you some of the stuff that we've been doing. We've basically been running since the beginning of this year, around February. We run a course. It's originally a 6-week course, but we've now extended it to a 10-week course in Rastafari studies. We are following a directive of the Nyah Binghi elders at the International Gathering of Rastafari in 1997, where it was decided that Rastafari should begin a program of educating the public about Rastafari in order to demystify it. With the support of Honourable Ras Kos, I'm not sure if he's here today, we are now the official UK representative of the Rastafari Majesty and the Movement exhibit scheduled to be exhibited in Ethiopia in 2014 in conjunction with Addis Ababa University. And we hope to work with the various mansions, the various people within Rastafari to make this seminal exhibition a reality. We have secured Fairfield House as our official address, and we are representing Rastafari on the Friends of Haile Selassie and Fairfield House Trust Board, and we want to work with you to make Fairfield House the central home of Rastafari in this country, the UK Spiritual Embassy. We are running a training program in the art of politics and broad-based community organising methodology that we offer to all Rastafari leadership and members of their contribution of their congregations. And we are here training a new generation of Rastafari leadership. We recently, just last week, represented Rastafari at the UN Working Group for People of African Descent on issues such as education, justice, employment and health. And as I mentioned earlier, through the Rastafari Global Council's partnership with Africa Horn, we have consultative status at the UN to attend meetings and consult on issues of importance to Rastafari. So we put in a report to the UN Working Group for People of African Descent outlining some of the issues that were impacting the Rastafari community. One of those was the criminalization of the Rastafari community because of our use of the holy herb. Another was that many Rastafari, if they go and work on a building site, it's kind of difficult to wear a hard hat. So we are campaigning that the Rastafari community be made exempt from wearing a hard hat, like the Sikh community, who are actually exempt from that law now. We've begun negotiation with the central government in regard to launching a Rastafari state school. Our friends in the Jewish community recently had a new state school erected at the cost of £36 million to the British taxpayer. Their 36th state-funded school in the UK. So we have begun to approach government departments regarding the creation of Rastafari schools as a culturally identifiable solution to the underachievement of African Caribbean boys in the UK, and we cannot really understand why we haven't really stepped forward and seen this as a solution from a long time ago. So we want to pioneer a new modern approach to Rastafari organising and working methods, to transform Rastafari into a powerful moral force in the UK and global political affairs, driven by the teachings and words of Haile Selassie, who taught us to organise and centralise and to speak out courageously on issues of injustice. As I mentioned before, I look different from the traditional Rastafari. Some have questioned whether a man without locks can work for Rastafari. Some have claimed that I don't flex like the Rasta man that they have known of. But I say that I am the fruit of Rastafari. The fruit and the seed are not the same. Rastafari is a tree. Its seed was planted by the Honourable Leonard Howe in Jamaica, and Hon Binghi was the root. 12 tribes and EABIC were the branches. We believe that we are the fruit. The fruit and the seed are not the same, but the fruit shows the world what type of seed was planted. May the spirit of Haile Selassie be made manifest in I and I, that we may also be likened unto God. Emperor Haile Selassie I, Exabia Nagus Nagas. Blessed Lord.
Give thanks to all the speakers on the table and also on Skype. And so now we'd like to throw it open to the floor. There's a microphone here, so I'll have to come round. So if people want to raise their hand to. Maybe if we take a few questions and comments and then come back to the.
Give thanks, Rastafari. This question is posed to Ras Shango. You mentioned earlier about the unity of the movement and the Ivine cast and what I represent. I represent His Majesty. and further to that about the misunderstanding regarding the budget them working at Fairfield. And I say, you know, there is a lack of communication with the wider community of Rasta people. And from the reasoning tonight, I would suggest that I and I in the future should call a conference of the Rastafarians in England so we can clarify the issues that is pertaining to our liberty. Because right now the question was posed where the movement at this moment and where it's be going in the future. When I have a future, because His Majesty is the future in every time. So it's just I and I to get together, communicate more, and get a conference together for the future that we can know each other and know that we're working toward the same program, regardless which house or mansion. Because as the elders always tell I and I, Bono G is Ras time. You know, he's one Rastafari, he's not two, he's one. So what is the difference? Is the difference of ideological approach to the whole process of works. Give thanks.
I pose this question to Tony Tafari. He mentioned objectives and aims of the RGC, Rastafari Council of Britain also. Can I hear a few, because you show some works that you're involved in at the moment. Can I hear a few of the objectives and the aims of the Rastafari Council of Britain?
Greetings, Rastafari, Haile Selassie the First, blessed. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Ones on Ones for this meet, for putting this together. It's really wonderful to see where the movement is heading to. My name is Dr. Cherry. I am from the Nyah Binghi Center in Scotch Pass. And like I said, my question is, my problem is, how much contacts that one has with the ancients in Jamaica. It's very important that all that we do, no disrespect to the heads that have now spoken, but I think it's very important that we keep in dialogue with the ancients. The ancients in Jamaica have now formed also a group where all mansions have come together. So with all that to do with the Nyah Binghi movement or with the Rastafari movement, the ancients are now, we have appointed one from each house who answers to all that is taking place towards the Rastafari movement. I spoke with the house yesterday, and their message to the house here is please to look to repatriation. Let our old everything go into repatriation at the moment. As you know, Jamaica is about to go into what they call it, proper republic. It is getting to a stage where we're going to be really saying, look, turn it over a new page in our history. On the 21st, I want Ones on Ones to look up on the net, or so I'll give you an email address afterwards. On the 21st of August, October, there's going to be a meeting in King's House, Lion House in Old Harbour, where they'll be appointing a president for this movement who will be able to speak for us on a governmental level. So these are things that coincides with everything what you're all saying. But like I said, please keep, all what you're doing is wonderful, but keep in contact with the ancients. The ancients are still the head of all that is going on within the Rastafari movement. So, you know, please. And like I said, maximum respect. This meeting is going to be very important. That's taking place on the 21st. We want everyone to really rally around and give your support. Because once Jamaica goes into this new direction, ones are saying our flag has to now rise. The red, gold and green flag is the new future for Jamaica. So we want your backing on this. And like I said, put all your energy into repatriation. And it's right at our doorstep. It's sooner than ones realize. It's just around the corner. Our dream is actually coming true. Haile Selassie live. Rastafari. Bless you.
Rastafari. Give thanks to the chairman, them gone. I may ask my question, you know, because the chairman invite me here and we give thanks to the chairman. See, the young chairman, I hope him have a long service and I hope a good works. I will meet him often already. But the question that we have on the paper is, what are the Rastafari themselves thinking? I think from Barbara Blake, Hon Bongo Spear, and Ras Shango Baku, amongst others, we get a visual impact of what the movement itself is thinking. It's a very wide and very big movement. And what does Rastafari want? Well, we're not going to answer that question because we want too much. What does the future hold for Rastafari in a globalized world? That is a question I want to touch on through the chair. And the Rastafari Council of Great Britain is new. It's a new council and we wish to wish it well. And we'd like the council, I have a reason with Dr. Shawn Sobers earlier, to ask if Fairfield House would have the capacity to take up the Magdala inquiry. And he said he would look into it, which is very encouraging. But I think the council, the Rastafari Council of Great Britain, should really look at the Magdala inquiry as something of what one of your main aims and objectives. It's spiritual and cultural education combined. Also, it will give you political clout. The Magdala inquiry goes back a very long time. £10 million was spent in its original conception, and now the value is over £3 billion sterling. And I think that students here in universities would learn a lot by going into the Magdala inquiry, because for myself, I think it's a very good way forward. Also, I didn't hear anyone talk about the 2nd of November, 23rd of July, them things there. I think those things is central. Without those things, we can't say nothing, without those basic things. So we should mention 23rd of July, 2nd of November, Wagwan. I don't know if the university want to keep dance or if the Binghi House want to come here, so, or something like that, because we have to spread out and sometimes we have to incorporate more people inside of the ISIS. I just finish off with this point, say, what Barbara Blake kind of said was that Jamaica was going through 50 years of anniversary. Well, actually, it's a golden jubilee. It's not a republic yet. If it was a republic, it would be anniversary. But because it's still under the royal standard, it's a jubilee, a golden jubilee, which is governed by Leviticus 25 in the Bible, the standard Bible. That is the government of the jubilee and nothing else. Next year, the OAU, the Organization of African Unity, will have their jubilee from 1963 to 2013. That is 50 years. There are specific requirements in a jubilee. The OAU must make preparation for the redemption of the land and other things. Now, if this council that we have in front of us is to be successful, not only should we look at the past things, but we should look at the immediate future as well. And this jubilee of the whole of Africa, the all of the OAU, 53 members, is a uniting force among us. And if we carry it to its full conception, you find it's more than repatriation. Because you'll find that the embassies here in London are not talking about it. The OAU itself has not issued any reports at all about it, I can find. So if it wasn't for the Rastafari movement that birthed in Jamaica, but we spread out all the islands, and now we're in England and Europe as well. I think you have more Havana in Europe than anywhere else, if you look into Europe. In Russia also, we find people of the Rastafari faith. People that tell me, say, yes, it's Rastafari and Bob Marley, keep them going. We must protest at what is going on in South Africa. Our Pan-African friends tell us there's up in arms. There was a demonstration outside the embassy today, the mine incident. That's repugnant, not only to I&I movement, but I'm sure to a lot of people who thought South Africa was free, only to find that the ANC government is using apartheid laws against their own workers. So the Golden Jubilee next year is a thing that not only the council, but the Nyah Binghi elders, those learned ones, the Bobo Shanti elders, and also Jamaica, we give thanks to Scotch Pass, and I name in Scotch Pass. There's a church of Haile Selassie in Spanish Town, It's the Spanish Town Compliance Unit, the Jubilee Compliance Unit. And they are looking at what can we here in England do for the Golden Jubilee of the Organization of African Unity, some call it AU, next year. And that is the main question. What can we do as a collective force, not only to encourage it, make sure that the OAU have a greater jubilee than Jamaica did have, because Jamaica did have a good, it don't finish yet, but we did have a good time, a very good time. And we want to roll it all into Africa next year. So I give thanks for those few words, and give thanks to the chairman for his work. I see his work. And when there, you know, dreadlocks like we, right, but you want to wait still, right? Right, you will grow up as well, right? Nice, seeing. And we give thanks to Ras Pepe Judah, who know him, in Passa, and we give thanks to him work. And we have to talk about people like Ras Pepe Judah and Ras Binghi Mascram, because them did hold, and Pinto Fox and many other people. But those individuals that hold on to the fort before I and I come forward. We give thanks for the great work that them do. Emperor Haile Selassie first, Rastafari.
So we'll have some responses from our guests, my speakers, and then hopefully we'll have time for another round. But first of all, I'd like to bring back Ras Bongo Spear and Empress Barbara. Are they still with us?
Yeah, I am here.
All right then. Is there anything that you wanted to say, Bongo Spear, about what you've been hearing?
What I would make 2 points and go from there first. The speech from His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie, and says the United Nations continues to serve as the forum where nations whose interests clash may lay their case before world opinion. It may still provide the essential escape valve without which the slow buildup of various pressures can result in catastrophic explosion. And on those bases that we would pursue the United Nations. The brother just raised an issue in context of, or made a passing comment reference to globalization and the Rastafari family. I would say that globalization offers the Rastafari family the opportunity to come together as basically a single family through cyberspace, as we are doing now, to bridge this land and sea divide. And it also allows us, this 21st century globalized world also allows us the opportunity, as I'm sure we're working for, to develop what I would call a Magna Carta of a modern global Rastafari society in this era we're living in of humanization and globalization. So I think that there are a lot of opportunities available to our community now. But one of the key issues is recognition. We are obviously recognized because we are people in the world. But the whole process of presenting legal argument with respect to our culture, I think it is very, very, very critical as we go forward. The whole issue, sometimes in some of the comments, one's refer to Rastafari as a nation. And I don't think these comments should be spoken of casually. So I think that our culture, coming from culture to social movement, and based on the numbers, the demographics worldwide, certainly is gravitating towards that whole process of being considered a nation. And that is a process that I think that the community as a whole and supporters should consider. The whole process of how do you graduate yourselves from a social movement or from an indigenous people's perspective to take your place really amongst the freedom-loving nations of the world. That is very I particularly come in terms of providing frameworks and so on, and procedural ways how we can go about starting basically the discussion on that type of exalted status. We speak about our homeland, Africa, our homeland, and repatriation obviously to get there. My view is that our repatriation will not come about through the messianic models or prophetical ways that were seen by the ancients, but basically through political organizing. I don't think we can shy away from the word political in this time, in this 21st century, because most, if not all, of the declarations and resolutions coming from various Rastafari conferences over the years have always had political elements. Again, what it needs is really to find a balance so that the traditional aspect of our movement is not particularly disadvantaged by movements towards a complete modernization of our administration.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, good, thanks, Bongo. Empress Barbara, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to comment?
In terms of what?
In terms of the word sound that you've heard from the speakers and from the audience, anything you'd like to pick up?
Well, there's so much that's been said and been said so well. I'd rather repeat it myself, but I tend to agree that the way forward is really through political organization and social organization, making social organization become political, as the other movements of the 21st century have been doing. We can come together that way. We've allowed ourselves to be divided in mansions rather like political parties warring against each other. And it's time now for one umbrella organization that can really bring us all together without having to consider whether we're all of the same mansion belief, because I see the role of every mansion. Every mansion has a role that's unique and useful for the movement. So it's no point us ever criticizing the other. We need to come together in this way, and digital is of course the way. I'm very glad to see the work that's being done here. I think again our political organization, because we have Bongo Spear with us with access to the United Nations, we can follow up on this. The Jamaica Reparations movement, they've just put Professor Vereen Shepherd as head of it, who was recently in London as part of the work organization of Africa. I got the name right, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, give thanks for them comments. I'd like to move to the. Sorry.
What I was going to say is, bearing in mind that she's going to be the one that will take this thrust forward to the UN, we have access through Africa Hall to access the United Nations when those important statements are being made, so that nothing is being done without our presence and our knowledge. I say big ups to Rastafari Global Council and press forward with your good works.
Any of the item want to comment on everything that's been said?
Thank you, Bongo Keith, for your question or your remarks rather than your question, that there has been misunderstanding which can be solved or resolved through more dialogue with our brethren, so that we know who the Global Rastafari Council is today, and we can see the trust and the youthfulness of this. Just say, well, call upon the youth because they are strong, and perhaps since their remit is about being a valve or a conduit or an agency for various mansions, that perhaps we can lay on their tender shoulders the burden of organizing a conference that will bring the houses together and sort out where our priorities are, so that we can move together with more strength and more unity. Good, thanks.
Yes, Honourable, I just want to say to the Empress where mention the ancients. Well, forever we always looking forward to link the ancients. Even I tried to Scotch Pass 2 years ago regarding the reason of the Rastafari Global Council as well. And I mean, the ancients, them love the heights, which is why it's here right now. So they know it coming from their inspiration, So also, And also we go make a deal with each other and always have to link the ancients and ancients there in the place. And them grow I and I. So when I and I do something, we have to always remember say it's the ancients teacher and we are practice out the teachings. The ancients don't want to lean upon them. They want to come forward with the results, the fruits, the niceness of Rastafari liberty, the movement of the creed and the living of the creed. I tell you all, give thanks to life.
What I actually meant is like decision making. When it comes to certain decisions being made, please consult. It's just something that they've asked me to consult you. It's private. It's not something we want to speak openly, but they're asking for you please to consult them about certain things.
Always. We give thanks to life. And I mean,
and the thing they're asking for is Inity.
Inity strength. Aye. It's the last, yeah. Aye. No, go on first.
Oh, okay. Did the other not want to give voice on?
Well, say what
fire red, you know? You hear the fire blazing red now. The fire is blazing red like this. So we talk about this generation, third generation, or the new generation of Rastafari. And we learn to the generation in wayward and want to have their own way. And same thing the elder them say. My brother can know some reason about these things, the consultation of the elders them. And we are going to bring forward now because we have to humble. And the elders them are here. And we can't disrespect. From that Jamaica, we sight up Rastafari, they when they try to ground the elders them, you know. Keep it on the wall. Binghi, Pitford House me come from, you know. I'm humble. And elders me learn from, you know. Elders are, me the bounce a elder lady from a different nationality, and I realize say it's not just only I and I elders them I respect all elders, you know. So the elder them know say me love and we love them. See, I know the idea love the elders them, but you know, when we fast forward, no, or whatever, and do this thing properly, because it's been questioned and it's been, you know, we don't want to talk too publicly. The Asians of the Rastafari, Selassie. My brother, you know we are come forward. We are reason alignment, yeah, with the elders them. From ancient, from backyard, inner England, alignment with the houses them. Consultation. Is Rastafari Global Council is not just ionized within Rastafari community coming together, unity. That is what it's all about. And I told them one is going to question our credential, one is going to question. Even I a warrior up on the back of field, you know. Seeing His Majesty I and I here. One's gonna question I see, but I and I, you know what I do? I a driver. See? I drive Rastafari. We do Rastafari works, drive everything like a catalyst in this thing, see? So my brother me know say no, there's no public this embarrassment or anything, yeah? But forward and deal with it. Elders respect and manners and honor, yeah? Respect elders. Rastafari.
I think if we carry on with some responses from our presenters, and then because time is running short, if we have maybe just another round of statements after that, which will just leave us statements, so that we get enough one-to-one speaking. Yeah?
I just had a short response to Brother McLean about the OAU, the anniversary next year, Jubilee. That I think Fairfield House would be a good gathering point for that kind of observance. So I think if we kind of talk about that, I think that would.
Give thanks. But I'd like to refer this question to my brother Simon. Regarding a statement on this manuscript. This ecclesiastical item that is not within this ecclesiastical item that is that you're trying to regain from the British Museum, is it Oriental 818 and 819?
Sorry?
Is it the Kiba Niges, the scrolls?
Part of it. Kiba Niges is one of it.
Okay. Does it fall under Oriental 818 and 819 in that format in the museum?
It's part of the Magdala treasure that was taken in 1868.
Yeah.
The holy treasure that the president of Ethiopia asked for.
Yeah, but I'm referring to the Kiba Niges scrolls.
Yeah. It's one of them.
Yeah. What is it termed now in that museum? What is the term that they use for it now?
Magdala treasures.
It's fall under Magdala treasure. Yes. Thank you very much.
I don't think a lot of people here actually know what you're talking about. So I suppose if you could try and explain what are these treasures to people, then they would probably understand. Because I don't think a lot of people here have any idea what you're talking about. It's Magdala.
All right, give thanks. I never intend to speak, really. But, I did circulate a document earlier on from Addis Ababa University. If anyone hasn't got it, you can check me later on. I'll get you a copy. Basically, it says that the Addis Ababa University president is asking for a Magdala Greater Public Awareness campaign through the medium of music, which is being implemented by the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated. And it goes on to say that they're asking for the full participation of the youth of Ethiopia. Accordingly, please extend your support to this noble and worldwide cause in sensitizing the Ethiopian population at home and abroad, especially the younger generation, concerning the history of Magdala, the looted treasures, and to gain their assistance for the ongoing campaign for the return of the loot. They're specifying loot. The treasures of Magdala was looted by the British Army from the churches of Ethiopia on the 13th of April 1868. It is the whole National Library, the old National Archives of Ethiopia, and they are here today in the British Museum, the British Library, Oxford University, Cambridge University, Manchester University, and 6 of the very best manuscripts are in the Royal Library at Windsor Castle. The Ethiopians have made a public appeal through the British House of Commons, and they're saying it's sacrilege. The Ethiopians are saying is that the British Army committed sacrilege. And, well, that's it. The Magdala, they are here in England. They're not a figment that is in a different country. They are here. Any student, if you use Google or Afromet, you can find out all the information. What they're asking for is a greater public awareness campaign through the medium of music, which is being implemented by the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated. That means the organization has been accepted. Addis Ababa University used to be Emperor Haile Selassie House before we converted it into a university. So I don't suppose anyone will get a letter closer to the throne room than from Addis Ababa University itself. And we're asking the students to do whatever you can to satisfy the president who's made a public appeal. To whom it may concern. He says to whom it may concern, because it may not concern some people. He's asking to those whom it may concern. The treasure is very valuable. I don't suppose any student who is paying, I think it's about 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 pounds a year now to get learnings. I don't suppose your teachers would tell you these things. I don't suppose they will, but they're the root of Ethiopian Christianity and culture. It's not normally taught. It's taught in Oxford and Cambridge, but lower universities don't normally teach it. Rastafari. I can only say for myself, I learned about this from the schoolroom in St. Agnes Place, the Rastafari schoolroom, because we all attended school at some stage. And my teachers showed me that Ethiopia is the birthplace of I. And when we look into it, we find that their treasure was looted and they're in England today. Repatriation is that we do not go there with empty hands. We must go there with something that can fill the people's, not only physical food, but spiritual and cultural food also. And that is the reason why I'm putting this to the Rastafari Council, to consider amongst your agenda items, because we believe it is very, very important. The doorway has been open for repatriation, actually. There's other letters from the local MPs, but this is not the time to go into it. We're asking the council to do the best that you can for the president. Rastafari.
So the EWF president, Iron Wise, as well.
Well, keep going right at the top. Oh, yeah, okay. With the flag.
Rastafari, Haile Selassie the First. Rastafari. My name is Rastinish. I am the president of the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated, London Local 3, Nagus and Agas. I'm also an international executive member on the board in New York of the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated. Today we come as an observer really to make observation. We had reasonings with the brethren them already, and we think that there's a different way, an approach to this. What we need to do, all the heads need to sit down and discuss amongst ourselves, not just have an open forum and then it's just everything is just out there. So we know already the direction we need to take. We observe the zeal, we love the zeal and everything because we know it's forward movements. But we have to look at our approach, the way how we approach everything. And we see from even tonight, the same thing what has been said. And ones and ones is basically begging the item to acknowledge the elders and the ones them who's come before and the work that is being put out there. If the item is not around, right, the organizations and the bodies of Rasta community, if you're not around it, you're not going to know exactly what's happening. So a drop in here, a drop in there is not going to do it. You know what I mean? We need a deeper reasoning amongst I and myself, which needs a closed meeting, not a public meeting, amongst the heads. And then we come forward to the members of those organizations and different houses and mansions within the Rastafarian community. So with that, I'd like to say that's what's needed and that's what's in place to happen. So Rastafari, peace and love to the house.
Ever do give thanks to Holy Emmanuel I Selassie I Jah Rastafari. Ever do give thanks to the unity to stand divided we fall. And ever do give thanks to the brother love and the sister love. The man said together we walk, together we talk, together we wash our hands and feet. Some people say we have no needs in doing these things, but to know that we are fulfilling the heavenly mother and father laws and commandment of the creator of earth, sky and sea. And we ever do give thanks to this unity, and ever do give thanks to this gathering where more than 3 generations gather together. The man said wherever we gather in his name, behold, he is there to give us the ever standing. So we ever do give thanks to this gathering, as I said. And as we are talking about the unity, one main important point that I would like to expand on is the OAU. That is the Organization of the Africa Unity. As we know that organizing and centralizing is one of the most important issues within moving forward. And as I said, it is a monument for us to really look within it. You understand, to move forward. You understand that this is an international organization, as we all know, right? And the first word within that organization is organized. So, as I said, when we look at the charter of the OAU, we see the different possibilities of moving forward within unity, and that goes for the leaders of the government, which really govern the house is of the people, which is the sons and daughters, because you have sons and daughters in every government and every regime. You understand? So, as I said, it was for the leaders of Africa that was in a disunity among themselves. His Majesty decided that this unity among the African state is very needed, so he set up the OAU. So as I said, we're going into the 50th, the Jubilee, as the elder said earlier on, which is a very, very important monument that we are moving forward to. As I said, we're just moving out of the Jubilee of Jamaica 50th. And we're going into the OAU. As I said, this is an international monument, right, that we're supposed to look forward. So as I said, we want to put in some industrial operation within this work that we're moving forward to, because we know that it is commercial and industrial within every movement of our development. And as I said, we have a lot of theoretical points, but as I think we ain't got enough commercial, industrial, we ain't got enough industrial points, you understand, which will fall in behind within now, as I said. So, as I said, we're looking forward towards this OAU Jubilee. We would like to organize among ourselves the industrial activities to move forward, organizing ourselves. You understand, as we know that we are in a lot of unfavorable situation, which we need industrial development to take us out of that situation. So, as I said, we're looking forward to this monument of the OAU Jubilee coming forward, and we're looking forward towards the unity of each other to work towards that industrial part. Okay? Thanks.
So we were ancients there. Vandale, want to touch it there to the hill.
Hail Rastafari.
Okay.
Give thanks and Isis. Well, first of all, give thanks to the Most High for this gathering. And it is wise, and it is real, and it is not a secret. Celestia is no secret. It does not mean that we cannot have meetings in secret, but it is very important when the issue of I trotting forward is put out in this way so that ones can actually pick it up in the third generational space where we are, on the internet, get the information, and give thanks to everyone who's here present. Give yourselves a clap because you made it. Okay, now, it's important. The AU, the OAU. First of all, I want to share with everyone that I was in Ethiopia, and in my calendar, which is the works that we do over the year, there's a 16-month calendar, and in it we featured the meetings of the OAU. We had 8 ambassadors from different African countries, and the most of them, in fact, are very important members of the AU, the new Africa Union, who are the main. This is now the OAU come now to this stage, yes, the Africa Union. So what happened was Dr. Desta and various members in the community, we organized to have the first ever seminar of African ambassadors visiting Sheshemani. It did not come from any one Rastafari organization. It came from a deep and enduring love of His Imperial Majesty as the founder of the OAU, as divine, majestic leader and king of the earth. And from this confidential space, we were able to share with the African ambassadors. In fact, I was honored and blessed by the Most High, as I do, as he does, to meet the ambassadors prior to the meeting in Sheshemani. In fact, in speaking with them about, it's really about the calendar that I was really reasoning with them to begin with, and then we're talking about the Africa Union meeting coming up for next year, the 50th anniversary, and the fact that Sheshemani is a beacon on the African continent. It's a beacon of hope and light for reparations and repatriation, in that no other king or leader of the African nation has given land to the black people from the West, the diasporans, to return home. Now this, I can see, I have lived in Sheshemani, I can see that people don't really overstand the gift, you know. They don't overstand. No matter what house or mansion, they talk through these things and they speak of His Majesty's gift. But the reality is, they don't get the fullness of it. Because it is not just about a piece of land. It is something that is a light that is spreading throughout the whole globe, the whole earth. Because as the ambassadors pointed out, they didn't even know, many of them are not even aware that Sheshemani is a real thing, you know. And we're talking about African leaders, okay? We're talking about people who are representing us in the AU, are talking about our reparations and our repatriation, you know. And they were not fully up to date on the reality of Sheshemani as a community. Now, you know, it's been since 1955 that the land was granted. 1955, I believe, yes. Now, in all those years, these African leaders, they were not informed, that they were not up to date. Why? Because we, the Rastafari, have not kept our promise to the Most High, our promise of love of our motherland to the extent of putting aside our egos and she-goes in our organizational differences and approaching the thing as one. We're one nation, you know, we're one nation. And until you know Haile Selassie as the Almighty, you will have as many divisions as you can possibly come with. Because the brother don't have no need to talk about himself not having locks. The sister don't need to talk about her color, because we know that King Selassie is the God of all. So now, from that perspective, we need to approach whoever we approach, you know, with that confidence. Each and every one of us must have that confidence. So when we got to the African leaders and we showed them, say, look, this place is real. We have a real community there. And we invited them gone. Yes, we did a lot of work, a lot of ones in Sheshemani community, put a lot of effort into getting those leaders, those ambassadors into Sheshemani. Okay, we got them there. Now, they arrived to see a community. But when they arrived, guess what? Half of the community who no longer sees Imperial Majesty as the King of Kings, as the Lord of Lords, as the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah, they actually banned their members from attending such an auspicious conference. When we have 8 members of the African Union coming to speak to the first and only repatriated community on the continent. And this is before they go to report to have their meeting. They were having prayer meetings in South Africa, and they were having, even before leading up to next year's big meetings. They wanted to find out what we as a community, what Rastafari really wants in terms of repatriation. But when they came to look at the community, they found half of us. They said, first thing they said, well, we thought there was more people, according to what Haile Selassie was saying. Because I was talking about a whole community that was not divided. Because we have repatriated, because we were there on the land. But unfortunately, you know, the agendas are different, okay? So ones don't realize the importance of who they are in the earth. Ones don't even know how important they are in the earth, you know. The light that they're supposed to shine in the earth, you know. Because if you do, there's no organization or membership that can prevent anyone from serving the King of Kings, from obeying His Imperial Majesty's words. Okay, now when there's a call for repatriation and you have representatives from the ambassadors of Africa who are looking to I to give them something to go to the table with. Yes, no disrespect to Bongo Spear and all the representatives that have gone to the AU and the African Union throughout the years. But you know what they've all said? They've all said to me, yeah, but you know, it's good that you all want this, but every time you come with a different agenda. There's a different organization who say they are the head. They are the real ones. Can the global Rastafari of Great Britain become that organization that speaks for everyone? Because there are people right now who say, oh, I will never go to an Hon Binghi because I'm a 12 tribe. I will never go to that because I'm EWF. I will never talk to it because I am this. No. His Imperial Majesty is Lord of all. Have the respect for your Creator. Selassie.
Yes, I. Let the hell of them seal it up now. And then we are called for unity now, because unity is a serious thing. And for we in the place, we know say unity is strength. And remember, so communication is key. So I must know who the item is, same way. Speak.
Yeah.
Right. Boom.
Rastafari. My name is Binghi Noah. Yes. Let Anna speak of the patriarch David, yes, whose spirit is with us now. And through David's lineage, according to the flesh, this man rise up and sit upon his throne to fulfill the prayer of the kingdom come and the will be done. All right, first prophecy. Next, unto us a child is born, a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Almighty God, the Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. No, the government shall be upon his shoulders. No, from what I learned from the elders, my grandmother, her name is Nana Bunchi. My grandfather is Reverend Claudius Henry. I grew up in Clarendon, where we have one of the biggest Rasta camp there. Okay. And what I learned from them was His Majesty sit up on the throne in 1930, and 1937 he gave us a constitution. He tell us how to do things. Does anybody here know about this? Yes. Anybody know about this? Yes. Right. No, His Majesty gave us a constitution. Now, later about 1958 or something like that, when they come, Emmanuel will come and them set another thing. Different people come and set another thing. Whooper thing come and set. So it's like we're building it to our Babel. Okay, right. No, I have to go forward and deal with the thing His Majesty said. His Majesty set a constitution with bylaws and all these things. He tells us how to run things. Now, when I took the constitution to Ghana, yeah, I showed it to the government there, and they gave us a place there to deal with it. I didn't go out of my head, coming not so bright. You see it? So it was easy for me to just follow what His Majesty said. I even have the constitution here. And the reason why I walk with the constitution, because His Majesty gave us that constitution. Is everyone who know about that? All right. No, if His Majesty gave us a constitution, and we start to go on with different things, we're still building it to our Babel. Yes, we have to get back or forward and use the constitution that Selassie gave us. Selassie.
Yes, greetings and love to each and every one, Rastafari Kingdom, live it and reign it still. The items take plenty time, but the items take time I run out, so enough things say already, and some sound good, some sound we hear every day. So we cannot use some of it. I personally, to the item placed on the bench now, I have to give thanks to see the work with the item down here a manifest, in that sense of the work that I see in the item from Fairfield House. I must say, even when I employ the sister mention of the elders, then the item speak of that enough. Even between this iteration, elders more need to be where we go put on this thing here. That don't mean you can't put it on, but check the elders them know so you put it on, Even like when I mentioned certain date that the item was coming to Fairfield House again, like the 2nd of November, I make mention from July about the 2nd of November that Nyah Binghi is the only organization that continue with the works. All organizations have stopped in the UK. The only thing them do is like dance and boo. The African concept is only Nyah Binghi that do it. On the 23rd of July, as an example, 2nd of November, these dates are sealed already. So the next time someone going to one corner go somebody do something, we unify Rasta on certain dates. These are part of the check the elders, you will get this message. And put it on board. I'm posted again, we must come together in our own career, discuss our thing, put our thing properly, then we go to the public. Then we say there's no public. If we know there's public still, we're not going to that because you have Rasta and you have black people. Yeah, well, it's plain away. That is how it go. Shashamani mainly was given to black people from the West. It was given to Rasta. And Rasta take on the work. It's back to Binghi taking on the work now with celebration. And the burden is on the Nyah Binghi for the last 30 years. Everyone aware. We want the younger one them now to come forth now and strengthen that. I know you want I to come and strengthen the item, but it's the same strength. The item comes straight I know. As I said, the seed, the roots, the branch and everything, I love that. I love the vibe about the eye. Seed and the thing, Well, I know the root, the plants and the branch and the seeds. We want to see the seed grow. Yeah, and the seed can even come root one day, Come, apple come. So I got to say the item prepare to become the root.